Welcome, confidentials. Are things happening in Venezuela as a consequence of the earthquake and the catastrophe? And one of them has to do with the strained, almost frozen relationship between the United States and María Corina Machado. María Corina Machado tried to enter Venezuela in 3 different ways and couldn't do it because the United States barred her from entering. The United States even went so far as to order Delcy Rodriguez to close Venezuela's airspace so that the opposition leader couldn't land. Why is Washington carrying out this action? What's the reason for such a strong prohibition? Is it so María Corina can't set foot in Venezuela? We'll try to explain it to you in 1 minute. Only €2.03 per month. Protect yourself with CyberGhost VPN. Friends, the earthquake in Venezuela changed everything in that country. Some people claim that the earthquake has taken out or is about to take out Delcy Rodriguez Diosdado and the entire corrupt Chavista mafia that is still there, because the United States allows it. Not everyone agrees. For example, there are congressmen from the same party as Donald Trump, Republicans like Carlos Jimenez or Maria Elvira Salazar, who have already demanded the capture of Diosdado Cabello. And for María Corina to be able to enter Venezuela and lead the transition, but he's not on the sidelines because of Marco Rubio. And for now, neither is Vance, the vice president. Timing is important, yes, but it changes when a country needs to be rebuilt again, and you can't leave that reconstruction in the hands of those who destroyed it. Look, all of this started the day after the earthquake last Friday when María Corina decided to return to Venezuela. And some sources say that she asked Donald Trump for permission, with whom she is in direct phone contact, and that Donald Trump allowed it, although others claim that wasn't the case. The truth is that on Friday she left on this private jet you're seeing from the state of Virginia, heading to the country closest to Venezuela, to Curacao. Her intention was to get there in order to plan the trip by sea from Curacao to Venezuela, just 40 nautical miles away. She had barely left Virginia, had been flying for just over an hour, when while flying over North Carolina, she was forced to turn back. Literally, what we received is that Marco Rubio asked María Corina for patience to preserve the fragile working relationship we have with Delcy Rodriguez. That was on Friday. She returned to Virginia. She listened to Marco Rubio. But on Sunday, on a commercial flight, she left again, heading to Panama, where she arrived last Monday. She did it with a plane from this company, Copa Airlines. In fact, she tried to hide that she was the passenger to avoid any interference with her commercial flight to Panama, with the intention of later traveling from Panama to Venezuela, and she was going to do it again with her private jet. What happened? The information reached the United States. The Panamanian government fully cooperated with Donald Trump, and perhaps the most unexpected thing in this story happened. Washington gave the order to Delcy Rodriguez to close the airspace in Venezuela, except for planes carrying humanitarian aid. So the flight that was bringing María Corina Machado from Panama to Caracas never took off. And here, gentlemen, is where we have to ask ourselves the most important question. Why doesn't the United States want María Corina to arrive in Venezuela? And there are 2 versions. The security version, which is what the CIA claims, still argues that they couldn't guarantee her safety because there are still armed groups in the country. But there's another version, which is that they don't want a fast transition. They want it to be slow because of economic and business interests, and not to defend democracy and regime change for Venezuelans. Here, gentlemen, and now comes the confidential information. There are two factions within Donald Trump's administration. One is led by Marco Rubio, and the other, which has nothing to do with the previous one, is led by Vice President Joe Vance. Marco Rubio puts stability and steady access to Venezuelan oil first when it comes to Venezuela, and that comes before a rapid democratic transition. That's why neither Washington nor Delcy Rodriguez have set a date for free elections. It would have been easy to say a year from now or 6 months, but there isn't even a date at all, even though it's been many months since Maduro was removed and the United States has been governing the country. Marco Rubio. We're told by sources in Washington that he defends the interests of Venezuelans. From those who became known as MAGA, Make America Great Again, that slogan of Make the United States Great Again. Therefore, he aligns himself with companies like Chevron, the American oil company that did good business with Maduro's Chavista Venezuela, and that is now extracting oil from the Orinoco region, and it plans to expand the market 50% of its production by 2028. That is to say, Chevron is doing big business. Don't forget, Chevron was, for example, the one who supported General Rodriguez Torres to be interim president of Venezuela. The option that Rodriguez Zapatero himself also presented to the United States, Rodriguez Torres, who is still in Madrid, and he was the one who created La Tumba, that savage prison that's in the basements of the Caracas subway. All right, well, those oil interests would be defended by Marco Rubio because, after all, the United States comes first. A section of the CIA, the United States intelligence, also supports Marco Rubio's thesis. It was the CIA that prepared a report concluding that the person most capable of maintaining control over the Venezuelan army and armed forces was Delcy Rodriguez. It was that report that was placed on the desk of the Oval Office in the White House so that Donald Trump would choose Delcy and not someone else. What's more, in that report, it is explicitly stated that María Corina Machado would not have that. It said Corina Machado would not have that control. The armed forces and therefore the country could be led into a drift of war or eternal guerrilla warfare. Not everyone in the CIA thinks the same. There is a part of the CIA that is in favor of a democratic transition now and of taking advantage of the earthquake to end everything and start from scratch. But the other faction of the CIA, the one that tells him Digo, is still dominating the narrative for now. I told you there were two factions. This is Marco Rubio's. What about Joe Evans's? Well, he's convinced that only with an immediate transition to democracy could what he calls the Silicon Valley formula be applied in Venezuela. That formula is based on bringing the American mindset to Venezuela. It's entrepreneurs, the stability of their businesses, and investments becoming profitable in a short time. It's about supporting know-how, local talent, and foreign investment networks to promote that local talent. For example, Vance has a strong personal connection with the big magnates of Silicon Valley, with the tech companies. And he has already spoken with several billionaires from the area to get them to invest in that Venezuelan Silicon Valley project. For example, with Miriam Adelson. I'm sure you remember Sheldon Adelson. He was in Spain looking for land and it came to nothing. He was the king of casinos. This woman is his widow and she is directly supporting Joe Evans, with whom she has a good friendship, or Sergey Brin. This man is the co-founder of Google. He would be willing to invest in Venezuela. Or Elon Musk, without a doubt, is already helping with his antennas to enable satellite connections. And also this man, Joe Lonsdale, co-founder of Palantir, the most powerful software company in the world. Two ways to see the future of Venezuela, and both require Maria Corina to come and for there to be free elections. But Marco Rubio thinks it's not time yet, and Joe Evans thinks it's already time. Up until today, that division among Donald Trump's closest cabinet members is what has delayed the transition in Venezuela. And at the same time, it allows the tyrants and narco-terrorists to remain in power, even letting them take their wealth out of the country. I was telling you that the earthquake has changed everything, and that's true. Now we have to rebuild. Reconstruction will begin soon, from the area of La Guaira and a large part of Caracas. Are we really going to give the money for reconstruction to a corrupt government when we know what they'll do with it? Or will it just be taken directly from it, like Diosdado and others? And will it be set up, as some are asking within the Trump administration, something like a technocratic government of independent Venezuelan experts? If not tainted by Chavismo, who will lead the country to a democratic transition. Look, what we have no doubt about is that Maria Corina Machado has tried by land, by sea, and by air, and she will try again. At any moment, Maria Corina will appear somewhere near the area devastated by the earthquake. Neither the government of Washington nor the one in Caracas will be able to prevent that. And that day, maybe the country will change. The hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans left to their fate who are still sleeping in tents in gardens, not knowing what their future will be, without a home, without a job, without a roof over their heads. They'll start to see the light that day. A country is not rebuilt with just cement, paving stones, and technology. It makes no sense for a country to rebuild itself if it doesn't have the hope to start over and avoid making the mistakes of the past. That future Venezuela is already here. It's the present. All that's missing is the start button to get it going. Maybe Venezuelans will surprise the United States when they are the ones who kick the corrupt out of the palace, the Miraflores Palace. In due time. Browse safely with CyberGhost. Browse Castillon Confidential by Albert Castillon.